Welcome back everyone, my name is Trap. Today I will demonstrate overriding LazyVim's default implementation for lualine. My configuration, I am using Lazy as my package manager. I bootstrapped with LazyVim and then I customized to create my own personalization of LazyVim, and I call that nvim trap, which I've done other videos on. So I'm going to show you what my screen currently looks like. And you're going to see that I've got a typical Vim session up and running right now where I've got 4 splits. And as I navigate around the splits, you're going to notice that the lualine stays synced to the bottom of the screen, which should. That's the default implementation. So as I navigate down, you see I'm in the UI Lua buffer. If I navigate to my right, I am now in the constants buffer. And if I navigate up, I am in the customized buffer. But if I bring up the file navigator, you'll also notice that as I navigate into and out of the file navigator, it tells me where I'm located. So the default implementation does track very well. It may be very difficult to see, but I'm going to put my cursor right in the center of the screen, but you'll notice the separation between the screens. That's the default borders that are being set as I do a split. So I'm going to get out of this and I'm going to show you how I would go about configuring this to use a different style of lualine. So we're going to hop over to my UI window, make that the only window that's active. And we'll go down to the lualine section and we will open that up. And you'll see my YouTube marker in there. So I could find that, if you recall from my other video, I could do a find YouTube. And so in that context, I can jump right to the things I want to talk about in a particular video that I'm doing. So this one, we're just going to look at what's in lualine for this particular problem. So if you notice, what I've done is I've created a function. So the ops function looks and says, basically, if true equals false, which obviously is nonsense, then it will not execute this first path. It will execute what's down on around line 138. So you see the options down here. So I'm passing in a table with nothing in it, which gives me the default implementation for lualine as LazyVim sets it up. So when I want this implementation, this is what I look at. If I want to use a different layout, then I'm going to simply change this false to a true, and I'm going to get out of the window and restart Neovim. So this time when we go back into Neovim, I'm going to find files, and it doesn't really matter what file I find, but I'm going to use some of the built-in behavior that's built into into Telescope when I do finds. So if I go back to the same file, which was the UI Lua file, and I do a Control X, notice it did a split at the bottom. If I do another find file and I just look for DAP, and I do a Control V, that created another split. So notice I've got a quadrant taking place. Now as I move, you notice now that lualine is tracking the buffer that I'm in. So that gives me a nice visual separation when I need to turn that on. So if I do the same thing at the top and do another find file, and let's just go after Mason, and we do a Control X there, it did another split for me. And that was the wrong direction, so we'll get out of that one, but you get the idea. I should do a Control V, so we'll go back to Mason again, and this time we'll do a Control V, and now I have the splits the way I wanted them set up. So notice as I move around the window that my lualine is following and tracking, and so I get that nice visual separation when I need it. If I bring up the Tree Explorer, it also follows the Tree Explorer as well. So for me, this works out really well when I need this behavior. And to demonstrate how I could do that with another plugin, I'll show you what the plugin looks like initially, and then what changes will bring up the file that I would have to change it to if I wanted to implement it. So what we'll do is we'll go back to the UI Lua file, and we'll make that the only buffer that we're looking at, and close up all my folds. And we have in here nvim notify. So if we open up that fold, we see we have an options, and I'm going to bring up the actual code that I would change that to if that's what we were after. So we will look for find file. I have an nvim notify file. So this is in what I call my pitbox area, which these are just code fragments that I use for videos. They are not actively sourced by Neovim, but you can see what the code would look like. So on line 5, let me line those two up a little bit better. I'll take that up, try to get that up a little higher to the top of the screen a little bit more. That's good enough, I think. Okay, so you can see on line 5, in the right window, you can see there's now an options as a function, and it takes in, for the plugin name, it's an underscore and then the options value, and then I'm setting the options value in the condition that true equals true. Obviously, I would make this a little more intelligent. I would have a better function that I could control when the top is running, so I don't have to go in there and mess around with true equals false and that sort of thing. So you can see on the left-hand side of this, you have the same code in that block right there. So all I've had to do is convert it from populating the table directly versus using the options property and then populating the property that way. So what that does is it allows me to change it rather quickly. So if I want to go back and reset things just the way they were when the demonstration started, I simply, for right now, change one of these values to false. When I enter Neovim and find a file again, I expect LazyVim's implementation of lualine to be present. So as I look around for different files to look at, just to take a look at files, it doesn't matter what those files have in them, but notice I can go back and forth between buffers, and those files, lualine is tracking the buffer that I'm in, but the lualine does not move. So if I split something, and you notice that I've got the same file split, but it tracks, the buffer is being tracked in lualine as you would expect. So if I look at things like my customize, do not disable or use LazyVim's defaults. What I'm doing in this file is I set a default, because some of these plugins I'm not ready to use. So for example, Vim Illuminate. It's a great plugin, I'm just not ready to use it, so I have it disabled. When I go to start customizing that plugin for my particular use, what I would do is I would do what you're seeing over here on line 112 for lualine. I would set it up as a function. I would always make sure that I could run the default implementation that LazyVim provides. That way the plugin works. Then I can start to tweak it, and as I tweak it, every now and then I'm going to mess things up and I'm going to break the plugin and something's going to go sideways in my experience. I can quickly go back in, change it back, change that flag again, go right back in, resume configuration, and then get an experience in Neovim that I like. I hope this has helped you. I hope this is a technique that you can try to use. Help you configure your plugins for your own personalization. It gives you the option to drop back to LazyVim when you want to use the way LazyVim has been set up. It gives you the option to experiment when you want to experiment. Thanks for watching this video. Again, my name is Trap. I appreciate you subscribing and giving me a like. Give me some comments. Tell me how I can improve these videos. Enjoy the rest of your day. May God bless you.